Welcome to Every Child Belongs. I'm Kim Botto, an adoptive mom, grandma, and advocate for kids and teens with disabilities, as well as a longtime leader of kids and student ministries. In this show, we explore how we can create spaces where every child feels heard and valued, whether neurodivergent, differently abled, or they've experienced trauma. Every child belongs. We'll hear from educators, parents, professionals, and more, finding practical ideas that help build a compassionate and supportive world for every child. Let's get started. Welcome. Today, I'm joined by Ellie Axford. Ellie has for 12 years been the director of the Embrace Special Needs Ministry for Brentwood Baptist Church, which is located in the Nashville area. She's also the founder of this ministry. And Ellie, when I think of you, you are a voice for families impacted by disability, especially within the church. And I'm so appreciative of the work that you do. I met you because I was at I was speaking at a conference, and you guys were so generous to do a tour for people, but I was speaking during that block, so I couldn't. And you were so nice to spend time with me. And I remember just looking at your space and crying, and just hearing your heart for all people. And you're married to Tommy. And you guys have 4 daughters, which is a whole other thing. We could do a whole
that's a whole, that's a whole other podcast, right?
That's right. I'm actually one of 4 girls. I have 3
Are
little
you?
sisters.
I don't think I knew that.
Yep.
Oh
I
man,
sure
it's a unique space, I think. Yep.
It is. It is. My dad, he finally gave up, and all the dogs we got were female too. So there you
My
go.
husband's holding strong. We have a male dog. He's like
right.
the only option.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us more about who you are, Ellie. What did I leave out?
Well, I would say those are 3 of the defining roles. When you think about Ellie Axford, would be my job and my husband and my family. I love being a mom and love being a wife most days, right? Like we all do.
Right.
And I love my job. I say all the time, I have the best job ever. I'm so just thankful that the Lord has placed me here, that it's so neat to look back and think about how just little decisions I made or steps that I took were guiding me, I think eventually just to work in this field. A lot of people ask, like, oh, did you grow up with a sibling? Did you have a family member with a disability? You're so passionate about it. And I didn't, but just the Lord led me to come to grad school. I got my master's here in Nashville in special education. And so that kind of started a journey as I was studying for that and just thinking, oh, this is what God wants me to do. And it's looked differently. I started as a school teacher and then, over 15 years ago, moved into the space of special needs ministry. And it's been amazing.
Yeah. So tell me about that, how you transitioned from working in the schools to working in the church.
Yeah, it kind of happened over time. I taught immediately after grad school. I was hired locally for the school district. They have early childhood classrooms that are inclusive classrooms for preschoolers with special needs alongside their typical developing peers. And I got to teach in those classrooms for 6 years. I took a break. We had our second daughter, and then we had our third daughter. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for a few years in there with raising the girls and primarily focusing on that. In the meantime, back when I was still teaching, I taught close by Brentwood Baptist Church, where I was attending church and involved. We didn't have any type of special needs ministry. It's a large church. So several of my students went to this church. One who her family was actually on staff here. And they would come to me and say, hey, she's having trouble in class, or he's having a hard time with his Sunday school class. Like, do you have any suggestions on what they could do? And of course, just being hands-on, I'm like, well, let me go. Let's go. I want to see what it looks like. And I would and beforehand, just thinking, why is he having trouble? Like, he's such an easy kiddo. Why is this hard? He should be able to be in that classroom and, participate with his peers easily. And it was a great classroom. It was a great teacher. But as a special ed teacher, I could just see little tweaks like, oh, we could do a visual schedule in here. We could have some fidgets or just basic things. And I went to our kids minister and was just explaining all of these things or ideas, suggestions, just in a friendly way, not demanding, and
Right.
just saying, hey, I think this would help. And I had a relationship with him. He knew me. And he said, Ellie, this all sounds great. I have no clue what you're talking about. It's like, it's like you're speaking another language to me. You just didn't know. And of course, this was over 25 years ago, probably 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was just the kind of realization. And he said at that point, I wish I could hire you to kind of help coordinate this or help give our teachers some input. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head. And I loved my job. I was teaching at the time, had no desire to change, but I give him credit for kind of planting that seed in my brain,
Yes.
thinking, wait, that could be a job. I could work with this
Mm-hmm.
population that I love. I could work with their families that I love, but I could also teach them about Jesus, which was, just so exciting. So our church does everything really well. So it just took a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time, a lot of meetings, a lot of just kind of no one disagreed that this was a need. It just wasn't taking priority then. And so over time, it started to, and we had a few kids, four to be exact, that our church was working with, and a grandparent, a teacher, or just a great volunteer wanted to be their one-on-one buddy in the preschool or kids' classrooms. And we just grew from there until our staff and our trustees and the whole board that decides all the staffing said, we need to hire someone to help just make this a concerted effort and, start an official special needs ministry. And I got to do that job. And so
Yes, you did.
we always laugh. I think we told you this, Kim, when we were meeting, that we started with 4 kids in a closet, and we did
Yeah.
not put the kiddos in the
Right.
closet.
Right.
Don't, no one come at me for that. We did not do that, but we had a closet for resources and things we could pull to use. And yeah, these 4 kiddos that were included in their classrooms. And we've grown to, kids ministry let us borrow a classroom, and then they let us borrow 2 classrooms, and we're starting to take over. Then we had a hallway with several classrooms and kind of a sensory space. And then we were fortunate that a donor wanted to make a large contribution. And our pastor said, we're really running out of space for our friends in the Embrace Ministry. And if you would like your contribution to go there, we could really use it. And he said, absolutely, that sounds great. So now we have I think almost 16,000 square foot building space.
Gorgeous space.
Yeah, dedicated directly to our friends. And that has just allowed us to do so much more. And just really, we try to be good stewards of the space and all the resources that we've been given by our church.
Well, you are good resources, and getting to tour that building,
Thank you.
and the building is for kids through adults. There's no
Right.
age restriction on
Right.
it. However, the thing that I was struck by is just because a kid doesn't meet a need, that doesn't mean that they're going to go in that building. You work hard
Right.
to integrate them into so why don't you talk
Mm-hmm.
about that? Like
Mm-hmm.
because there are some places that have big, beautiful buildings, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where all the kids with any
Yeah.
kind of neurodivergence or disability goes.
Right.
So talk to me about the thought process on
Mm-hmm.
why you got this big, beautiful space, but you still want them with their peers when they can be.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate that?
Yeah. We try to always see it as a fluid situation. Each
Yes.
individual that we meet, we don't say, okay, you're in a preschool classroom, you're always in our main church or main preschool ministry, you're always going to be there, or you're just going to move up through the ranks, or we're going to start you here in our building and you're always going to be here, for the rest of your life. Obviously our friends grow and change, and their needs grow and change during different times. So we really try to talk with the families and see what their desires are, some really want full inclusion. And we try to make that happen when we can with, a buddy in their classroom. And some parents, I think I've been surprised by this, said, you have more resources. They are with friends, and we have tons of people over here. It's not like there's one friend in a room by themselves learning this Bible story, but just with adapted curriculum and space that's built, created for them, I think some friends learn better in this environment, and that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And parents, I think most of our families just want a space where their kiddo feels safe and they know they're loved, which they, of course, they are in our main building as well, but they can learn, they think better learn and be discipled in our space. So yeah, there's some friends I never would have thought could be included like they are now when they first came to us. But we've learned about them and know what it takes, to help adapt the curriculum for them or help adapt a space for them. And we've been able to do that. We also have friends in one of our services that go over to worship. We have 3 services here. And so the last one, there's the ushers save several rows for us and have our certain space, and our friends know where they go. We have some bags with headphones or fidgets, some visual cues on that we need to be quiet, we're
Mm-hmm.
praying, we're singing, different things like that. And those have been some of the most amazing worship times. They go for the first part of our service and then leave and come back to our building for their own life group and teaching time that's more adapted to them. But those times when I get to go with them to worship are amazing. And it's a blessing to be in that class. And I think it's been a blessing for them, also a blessing for our congregation to see,
Right.
just see them worshiping alongside everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
so important. And you mentioned visual
Hmm.
cues. And for those who
Hmm.
aren't seeing what you're doing, you're actually making a sign for be quiet, a sign
Right,
for
right.
pray. And is
Hmm.
that because so many of our friends who maybe their brains are wired differently, a visual
Right.
cue is more impactful to them than saying the word
Right.
be quiet.
Right. And sometimes they're trying to engage with us, but I mean, we can talk, but let's not have a whole conversation during a church service. That's not really appropriate for the others around us, being respectful of others around us. And so, but one of our friends can read, he knows pictures. So we just point out the words to him, and he is able to have that little cue or little reminder like we all need sometimes. I'm a
Right.
very visual person, so I love being able to use those for our friends just to remind them of certain things.
If when you go into the main service,
Hmm.
when you're talking about you're pointing to the pictures, are you taking pictures in there with you of what's going to be taught or
Hmm.
sung?
No, not always that. They're more of a sheet where we've done visuals or pictures
Okay.
that might have, board maker symbols or different things that are pictures or visuals for them of sitting, prayer time, music, but not specifically about that service,
Okay.
or that sermon. And I love our former senior pastor and our current pastor, our worship minister, they're all on board. They say that's one of their favorite things our worship minister does, to look and see our friends worshiping at the 11 o'clock service. And we recently had it's called Special Needs Sunday, was amazing. I can talk to you more about that later, but
Oh, I saw pictures. Oh my gosh,
yes,
I
it
saw
was
pictures,
amazing.
Ellie. Yes.
Our pastor stood up afterwards and he said, "You know what? This is our former senior pastor was back to preach that Sunday." And he said, it might be a little noisy. It might make, we might hear noises or we might hear sounds or they might like to move around, and that's okay. And I can't remember his phrase. I think he said quiet churches are dead churches. He was like, we
Mm-hmm.
love the noise. And so I just love that we have that feedback from our ministers, or to, if anyone um were to have different thoughts, or think that they didn't belong in the church or that it was too noisy for them, then I love that we have the support of our, leadership, and they want them to be in there and think that that's important. So I'm very grateful.
Yeah, so tell us more
Yeah.
because like I said, I did see the pictures and I read about it. So you have a Sunday. Tell us what that Sunday looked like.
Yeah. Well, it was the first one. So we've been talking and talking about it, and just for different reasons, it didn't work out. And so we really just wanted a Sunday. Our main goal was just for our friends. That's what we call our students or kids, preschool with disabilities, our friends and their families, to feel celebrated, to feel loved, to feel supported by our church. And also just to give our church a reminder. because maybe they have never been in our building. Who knows? Or and several haven't. Or maybe they might occasionally see our friends. But I think some of the perception might be, oh, they have, what do we have? 5 or 10 friends in that building, and they're teaching them. So we had a special video that was done just talking about our ministry and what we believe and what our purpose is, that played. And we had all of our friends at the two of the services come up on stage, and we sang a little medley of a few songs, ended with Jesus Loves Me, classic.
Hmm.
And we had it didn't make any parents because some did not want to go up on that stage. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
that's all right. You don't have to. But a ton of our volunteers, families, staff all walked up on the stage. And I've gotten so much feedback that it was so powerful for the congregation at large to see, just you've been in our sanctuary. It's a large stage, and just see
Right.
our friends and their families. And I think that just represents, we don't serve that individual with a disability. We serve their entire family. Here are two siblings that are involved in student ministry that would not be the leaders they are in student ministry if their brother did not get to be served and embrace. Or here are these parents that work on staff because we are here to support their daughter. Here's a couple that teaches a life group because we are here. And so it's not just about that friend with a disability, but just about their whole family, and um, how our church just wouldn't be the same if we didn't have our friends and their families in our church.
Right. Our churches aren't the same without them.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I believe that many people are now starting to change the way they look
Hmm.
at disability ministry. And I
Yeah.
know you guys kind of went through this journey where early
Hmm.
on, I think before you were even on staff, it was
Hmm.
about providing a place for the kids so their parents could worship.
Right.
And
Yep.
then you started to make a switch in that,
Hmm.
oh, wait, the gospel is for them too. And I talked
Right.
to a lot of churches that have not yet made that switch.
Hmm.
So talk to me about how did you go
Yeah.
to really just taking care of them for a certain period of time to
Hmm.
discipleship?
Yeah. I think I look back and think, how did it take us so long to make that switch? We know how capable our friends are. Why would we think they wouldn't be capable of just accepting Jesus or learning about Jesus and knowing about Jesus? And I think we definitely, when we first started, our primary focus was more on the families. Of course, it was on the friends. We will take care of these kiddos or these teenagers, these adults, whatever that looks like, that's best for them. And in the process, we were teaching them about Jesus, but that wasn't the focus. The focus was, we have them, they're safe, they're taken care of, they're taught, and parents can go to a life group or go to worship. And that is so important, right? Our parents sometimes, they they do care, but half the time they were just like, here, please. I haven't gone to worship in years,
Right.
like with my husband especially. I had no clue. It's hard, especially when my girls were little, to get us all ready, get us all to church. It was hard for me, and I cannot imagine. I can, but I did not realize how hard it was for our families, and how many families would split up and alternate weeks that they would come to church because someone would stay home with that child. So of course that was our focus at first, and then we just started to see growth in our friends. Or maybe a parent would tell us, they talked about Elijah this week. Isn't that the
Mhm.
Bible story y'all were teaching? And just seeing all of that click. We have some students now, one young adult that we got to baptize last year, he and his brother together, and they have an amazing family. And I promise you, he knows more about the Bible than I do. We had a teacher that was trying to teach him a lesson recently, and she's new to our ministry, and she was explaining different things. And he said, oh, you forgot about this part, and started expounding on this text from the Bible. And
Yes.
she was like, oh, okay. And she said, I hate that I didn't expect that from him, or anticipate that from him. And I was like, but that's okay. Once he started telling you all the things he knew, you went with it, and you knew you could go deeper into that. So Yeah, that's been our focus. I think the last few years is just having teachers that are intentional about teaching the Bible story. And we also try to align our curriculum with what our whole next gen ministries are doing so that when
Mm-hmm.
parents are going home, they can talk about, oh, what story did we learn? Oh, you learned about Daniel. Oh, all four of my kids in four different ministries all learned the same Bible story. And so then that helps them at home continue to expound on that. So yeah, it's been a little light bulb moment, I think, one that I don't know why it came so late, but we're just excited and we've seen such growth. We had I think 4 or 5 baptisms last year over the last year and a half. And that's not the only goal, but just the fact that these friends are just learning and telling us what they know has been beautiful to see and be a
Right.
part of.
Well, and the baptisms are part of the fruit
Right, right.
of
Yeah,
the work.
it's been amazing.
Well, I'm glad that the light bulb went off for you all, and I think you can be
Yes,
a
yeah.
model to others, and even in sharing your
Mhm.
stories of kids
Mhm.
getting it. And
Right.
I mean, the God that I serve is big enough for
Right.
everybody, no matter what their
Mhm.
abilities are, to be able to understand who
Mhm.
He is. As we continue today's episode, I wanted to let you know that if you're looking for more resources, strategies, and encouragement for making sure every child belongs, head over to our website at kimbotto.com. Sign up for the newsletter to receive exclusive content and insider info on future episodes. Don't miss out. Go to kimbotto.com and join today. You talk to a lot of churches too, I know. And one thing I see a lot is if there is something for kids with disabilities or kids who are neurodivergent, it's more built out in kids, but then the kids get to 6th or 7th grade and they're kind of on their own. So,
Right.
what would, I mean, just this week, I've had a couple churches ask me about this. What
Mhm.
would you say to churches where they're working hard in their kids' ministry to provide
Mhm.
something so every kid can belong and worship?
Right.
How do they help this grow into not just a kid thing, but a church thing?
Yeah. Well, we always tell when we talk to other churches that want to do something, which is amazing. I think we're not the outlier anymore. Like
Mhm.
I feel there's a shift that churches know they need to do something. And if you want to ask me or you, I know we'd
Mhm.
say you have to do something. Like this is what we're called to do and to have some type of special needs ministry. And so I think we always tell other churches what start with what you have. What do you have? Do you have preschoolers with special needs? And you have to keep that end goal in mind. Those preschoolers prayerfully are going to grow into adults and be continue to be at your church and continue to be in your ministry. But you don't need to start a ministry for adults if you don't have any adults with special needs in your church at the time. It's like
Mhm.
the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. If
Yes,
you start
yes.
it, I promise more, you probably will soon have adults. But that's how we started. Every one of our friends was in preschooler kids when I started and when we had an organized ministry. And as one of our oldest friends at the time, as she went to student ministry, the location where we had student ministry, it was loud. There was a
Mhm.
band. It was amazing and students love it. But for her, she did not like one thing about it. She loved
Right.
being around other people, but in smaller groups. So we did some reverse inclusion and we had a class and they would ask at the beginning of student ministry, "Hey, who wants to go hang out with Hope in her class?" And we would have a few students come in, teach the Bible lesson. They would hang out with her. So she got that socialization. The other friends had fun, coming alongside her and learning a lesson with her. And it was never a problem for us to get volunteers for that. Even last minute, they didn't sign up ahead of time. It was just kind of a who's here this morning, who wants to go. And then over time, she grew to where she now goes to worship with our adults in the 11 o'clock hour for part of the service. And so she's grown and changed as well. But we had to kind of see what was working for her at the moment. And that's always
Mhm.
changing.
Right.
I think also currently under our next gen minister in our church. So that's preschool through student ministry through graduating high school.
Mhm.
And so, and also work with our adult groups ministers as well. And when I first started, I was under the discipleship minister, which was in charge of all those ministries. In the early years, when we were trying to get something started officially, they would put us under a preschool minister
Mm-hmm.
or a kids minister, and it just wasn't, it didn't have that lifespan that we needed to have. So yeah, we had a student, a mom asked the other day, her son's turned 18 this summer, and so she's dealing with a lot of changes and thinking about school. She can see the end here. School, you can go through 22 in school services, and she's starting to get anxious about what that looks like for her son, who has a lot of needs. And she was picking him up one Sunday and she said, "Oh, Ellie, I need to ask you, when does he age out?"
Mm.
And I said, "Oh, well, with school, are y'all having a meeting? It's 22." She goes, "No, here at church." And I was like, "Oh, Jen, he doesn't age out." And she was like, "Really?" Like, yes. And I
Oh,
couldn't believe she didn't even realize that or even had that fear of this is coming to an end. And
yes.
I was like, "No, we have someone that's 63. So we're good.
Right.
He's got a
Right.
long." I was like,
We're
"He's
good at
stuck
least
with
till
us."
63.
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
and that adds every year. And so, it's like he's like it or not, he's stuck with us for a long time. So,
That's as it
um
should be. And I want to go back.
yes,
You
yeah.
mentioned hope and reverse inclusion. And for those
Mhm.
who don't know what
Mhm.
that is, so what you did is you took hope into her classroom with all of her
Mhm.
peers. And then when it
Mhm.
got too overwhelming or too overstimulating, you would take
Yep.
her to a separate room. And then
Right.
reverse inclusion is when the typically developing kids, her
Mhm.
peers, then go into the room with her.
Right.
So I
And
just,
they're participating alongside in her lesson. This class is built around her and her needs
yes.
instead of making her adjust to what they're typically seeing.
Yeah.
And we did that for a season, and yeah, it worked great. And like I said, she's not doing that right now. She's here in most of her classrooms. She also attends our day program, so she's very involved. And but yeah, it worked for that season of student ministry for her,
Right.
where and exposing her to lots of other friends as well.
Well, let's get really practical. Let's say we have a fifth grader who's autistic
Hmm. Hmm.
and needs support, and a kids' ministry leader is saying, okay, this is his last year with me. What can I, and we have nothing in middle school ministry for him. What does that leader need to do to help start building a space for him
Hmm.
in the student ministry area?
Yeah, I think it would depend on what his needs were, right? And talking to people who have taught him in the past and what's worked well, what hasn't worked well. But I think the most natural thing is to go with what he's been doing, right? And peers that he's been around, maybe teachers. We've had some teachers that have moved up with our friends in those transition years, which has been super helpful because it's a
Right.
familiar face. They know. Or could you put a one-on-one buddy with that friend in middle school? Of course, in middle school, sometimes you have to stay back a little bit because
Right.
adults aren't cool. Do we
Uh-huh.
have a teen buddy that would work well with that friend?
Mm-hmm.
They're much cooler than us, old adults. And so I think just planning ahead, I think we're always thinking about those big transition years. We just met this summer with all of our next gen ministers. Okay, here are the preschoolers that we work with in your spaces. Here are the ones you that are in your ministry too, but we house them mostly in our center.
Mm-hmm.
And then here are ones that we're trying to see, can we work with a buddy and come over? They did so well at VBS, and so we're going to try it during Sundays as well with a buddy to do more inclusion. And all of our ministers, I think it takes buy-in on their part, whether you have
Sure.
a special needs ministry director or volunteers or not, it has to be buy-in. They have to understand, and our next gen ministers are great at that. These are our combined, our joined friends,
Uh-huh.
right? And their families. And how can we best serve them? It might be in my space, it might be in their space, or it might be a combination of that. But how can we work together, to help these friends succeed as best they can?
Absolutely. What would you say when churches are trying to support those with disabilities? What's the biggest mistake you see churches
Mm.
make, and what could be a corrective action?
I think it's well-meaning at times, but one thing that just is my one of my biggest pet peeves is when people think what we're doing, special needs ministry, is nice or kind, or
Ugh,
say, "Isn't that so
you're so
sweet that
sweet.
you do
Yes.
that?" Yes. I'm like, it depends on how much time we have, right? If it's a
Hmm.
conversation in a hallway, I'm like, oh, I have the best job ever and walk away. But if we have time, I'm like, this is not, I will not step on my soapbox too long, but this is not kind or sweet of me. This is what Jesus asked of us. What did Jesus do, right? And when we are leaving these families out by not intentionally creating spaces for them, intentionally creating supports to help them succeed, then we are missing out on the family that God wants in our church, who is going to make this a better church, right? And we talk all the time just about that verse in First Corinthians, indispensable, where our friends, that's what they truly are. And sometimes the parts of the body that seem weaker are the ones that we can't do without. I think that's kind of been our motto verse over the last few years. And just so I think just helping churches realize that this isn't a nice to do, it's truly a must do if we are living out, what Jesus tells us to do and what Christ would want us to do. I think that's just, and it might look different, right, at every church. Everyone I'm sure that you've worked with or that you've
Right.
seen, ones that we've worked with, we often have people come in our building, which is impressive, of course, and say, oh, well, we could never have this. And I'm like, and that's okay. We had a great ministry for 9 years before we had this. And
Out of
some
a
churches
closet.
will, yeah, exactly. And some will never need this space. We've tried to utilize this space to help improve our ministry and improve supports and just different opportunities for our friends. But it doesn't take it just I just truly feel it's a must do for churches. And I love when we get to come alongside other churches or when there are amazing people like you out there that are such a resource and for churches to talk to that we're like, you can do it. Like, let's talk about what this looks like and how can we help us get there.
Hmm.
We have several local churches around here that we gather and try to discuss about how different aspects, and our churches are all different denominations. We look different. We all do ministry in different ways. And we all laugh that parents will say, oh, well, I'm going to go to their respite. Is that okay? And like, yes, go to all the respites. This is not a competition. Like, we
Hmm.
just want to help your family. Go do all the things that you can. And so it's just really neat to see more churches just say this is something we need to do,
Yes.
and feeling called to that.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a great thing.
Yeah. I will get churches I actually had somebody last week that said, I'm gathering information to see if
Hmm.
it might be time to start. And I went, I have the
It
info. It's time.
it is
Let's go.
time. Like,
Let's go.
I can answer
Okay.
that question for you.
So
Yeah.
for those who are listening that are going, oh, it is time and I have
Mhm.
nothing, Ellie, encourage them. Give them some encouragement and give them one step they can do this week.
I think what helped us in the beginning, we formed a small, or a good Baptist church, a committee, right? There's
Uh-huh.
lots of
Yep.
committees
Yep.
everywhere. A small group that just was passionate. It was made up of former teachers like me, therapists, different a grandparent that had a child with a disability, parents, or just maybe friends of all of us that were passionate about it that kind of caught on to that passion and wanted also felt this was important. And so I think that helps to have, you're not feeling like you're doing this alone because that's
Yes.
going to lead to burnout. Even if you have one friend that you're serving, well, what if you're sick one Sunday or what, you have to have supports in place to kind of join forces and make this
Mm-hmm.
happen. I think talking to your church leadership is really important. I think you can get something started at any church, but if you do not have the backing of your church leadership and the buy-in from them, I don't think it's going to long term be successful or be as smooth. There are always lots of bumps in starting a ministry, right? But I think that has been invaluable to us to know that we have that support from our church leadership and budget money that has been
Mm-hmm.
given to us to run our programming. And I think just again, like we talked about earlier, starting where you are. If you have one friend or do you have a neighbor that has a disability and you want to invite them to church, well, how can that friend be successful in church? And just start there. It does not have to be big. And and I think we underestimate what God wants to do just by
Mm-hmm.
using one person or one family. I think I would have never imagined, 16, 17 years ago when we first started talking about this, that we would even have a ministry, that I would be working here with a staff where, we have 4 full-time staff and several part-time to run all of our programming in our ministries, and that we have a building. I mean, I would have laughed at somebody if they had told me that, which looking back now, why should I have projected what God was going to do with this, And we're just thankful that He's used something that started so small and that was just very simple, and just has grown that and changed that and brought, prayerfully, thankfully, brought alongside volunteers that have caught on to this mission, because obviously we couldn't do it without volunteers.
That's right.
Um, that are all in and are fired up about being here each week or each month, however often they come, and are ready to serve our friends. And truly, it's just, one of our parents said recently, I just feel the love when I walk in this building. And I'm like, well,
Oh,
good. I think I love that our families feel celebrated. That's what we want all the time. Like, sometimes we just cheer when some families walk in the door because it was really hard for them to get
yes.
here. And
Yes.
they should feel that. They should be celebrated coming into church. It makes me sad that some places they aren't, or that several of our families have been dismissed from other churches or said, we don't feel called to do special needs ministry right now, which that's a whole,
Mm-hmm. That's a
can
whole
get on my
nother thing.
soapbox
Yep.
again, I know. Or we just don't have the resources. And with some friends, maybe it is hard for a smaller church to handle some of the medical needs or some of the trauma needs that a particular friend has. But just to say, no, sorry, but no, without supporting them or helping them find a church that is willing and ready to take their friend. So I love just working with our families and continuing to find ways to support them and help them feel celebrated and loved and seen, I think is
Yeah.
really important to us.
Well, so you've given us 3 really practical steps. So you're saying don't do it alone. Get people
Yep.
around you, committee or team,
Mhm. Mhm.
involve your leadership,
Yep.
and then start with one.
Yep.
Find one person that needs extra support and do what they need.
Mhm.
Get some fidgets,
Think so.
headphones, whatever that kid needs. And I also, you bringing up how hard it is for families with kids with unique needs to get to church.
Mhm.
I think that's why it breaks my heart even more that they have
Mhm.
worked so hard to get to church and then are met with, sorry, you can sit in the lobby or
Yeah. Or
go.
he can come. Are you going to be his buddy? Like,
Yes,
no, I could be
yes,
his buddy at home. Why do I want to get
yes.
dressed and come here?
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's great encouragement, Ellie. Is there, as we wrap up, are there any resources that you would point them to? Are there things that you have at Brentwood that
Mhm.
might be
Mhm.
helpful?
Yeah, we're happy. We love sharing resources. I guess you can give everyone my contact info. We would love to share. We've shared a lot of our kind of handbook that we've
Yep.
created over the years with some of our, not rules, different policies, just to help
Mm-hmm.
keep our space and our friends safe. Different volunteer trainings that we use. We have a volunteer handbook and a family handbook that those sign as they join our ministry. We do intake meetings with all of our families and then do trainings with new volunteers. So we can walk through what some of that looks like. And there's just such a world. I need to come up with a condensed our program coordinator and I always say we need to write a book, or not a book, but just have a site where everything is compiled, because we all talk about different resources that are available, and putting all of those in one
Do it.
place.
Do it. I
I
vote
know.
that you do it
Yes.
because that would
Okay.
be, yeah,
Okay.
because there are so many things. You've shared a bunch of things
Call
with
Kim
me.
Botto. That's
That's right.
what I'm going to
That's
say.
yeah. No, you have so many great resources. So we will definitely put your contact info
Right. Yeah.
and one of the things you have is a whole list of other people that are doing stuff
Mm-hmm.
that you point
Mm-hmm.
to.
Yeah.
So Ellie, I really appreciate you joining me today. And we
Of
always end
course.
with some rapid fire questions, just some fun
Okay.
questions. Okay, you ready for this?
Okay.
One
Sure.
is, what's your favorite way to encourage a kid or a caregiver?
Oh, I don't do this as often as I want, but I think a note. a letter
Mm-hmm.
card in the mail. We do that a lot with our volunteers and with families, and sometimes even a quick text. It's been amazing. We try to pick a few of our families to pray specifically as a team for each week. And so I'll just shoot them a quick text and say, I'm thinking about you. Our team's praying. We love your son. We love, and talk about all the different things we love about their child, because every mom or dad wants to hear that. And then we say, if you have any specific prayer requests, let us know. And it's amazing God's timing on all of this. Like, I have a huge IP meeting tomorrow. Please pray for this. Or my son had some behavior today that we're working through. And God always sends us the right people to pray for on
Yes,
the right time that they need it, which is so kind of him. And so I think just words of encouragement through a
I
text, whatever you
agree.
have time for, letter, email, phone
I
call,
agree.
all of those ways. Yeah.
Because so often they don't get that. They're getting the laundry
Right.
list of infractions.
Right. Yes.
Okay, what's your most memorable gift from your childhood?
Oh man. Okay, this makes me sound like such a book nerd, which I am or was for sure. But I got the whole set of Little House on the Prairie books, all
Oh,
nine
yes.
together for Christmas one year, and I
Yes.
just thought that was the best thing ever. None of my girls, they've read a few here and there, but I was just very disappointed when they didn't want to read this whole set with me as they were growing up. But yeah, I vividly remember seeing that on Christmas morning
That
one
is a
year.
great gift for a reader. Okay, what's your favorite family tradition?
Oh, sounds so cliche, but I think all of things around Christmas and celebrating Christmas. We have an amazing Christmas Eve service here. And at the end, they turn off all the lights and we all have candles that they light. And it starts with just a few and it spreads throughout the whole sanctuary, which is
Yes.
beautiful while we sing Holy, Oh Holy Night and Silent Night. And I just love that moment. I start crying every year, but yeah, it's
That's a
sweet
great
and to be there with my family.
with all four of your girls and your
Oh,
hubby.
yeah. Yep.
Okay, now finish this thought.
Okay.
Every child.
Hmm. I think I'm going to go back to the verse I mentioned earlier. Every child is indispensable. They
Mm,
are needed and wanted, and we are missing out if we aren't treating them as indispensable.
you preach, sister. I agree. Ellie, thank you so much. I love connecting with you.
Yes,
Next time in Nashville, I'm definitely going to pop in.
you better.
Where can people find you? Besides, we'll put something in the show note, but is there a certain place?
I mean, really, I would direct everyone to our website, our church
Brentwood
website for our special
Baptist.
needs. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get you that info. And I would love to just personally connect with people. They can email me or call me and we can talk about specific questions. We
Great.
could problem solve together. Yeah, would love
Great.
that. The website address is brentwood.church/special-needs. And that'll take you to our website and get you more info.
Ellie, thank you so much. And thanks for the work you do
Yes,
and the way you are
of
modeling
course.
what it means to include every single person in the church and in the body of Christ. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much for joining me today on Every Child Belongs. If you found today's episode helpful, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And don't forget to share this with a friend who might need to hear it. Together, we can create a world where every child belongs.